The blind prisoner woke up from the ambulance with a start. He shouted a few times but had yet to receive a response from anyone. He didn't know why the ambulance had suddenly stopped moving, so he untied the straps, pulled up the syringe, and exited the hospital bed. But he opened the door and found it even quieter outside. Where the hell are all the police and paramedics that were escorting him? Ben slowly came to the driver's side. He got in and honked the horn to attract attention, yet there is no one here at all. After trying in vain, he used the key to start the ambulance's engine again. After some fumbling, he finally reached the radio in the car. He rushed to call for help, but no one answered. In desperation, he touched the eye drops in his pocket. He lifted the gauze in order to get his eyesight back and get out of here as soon as possible. The bright light made Ben's eyes unbearably uncomfortable. He took the drops, and after a few moments, he found that his eyes could already see a blurred image. But he wanted to leave, but it was still very difficult, so he could only sit in the car and hope that his eyes would recover quickly. However, he did not know that the horn he had just pressed had attracted something horrible. Suddenly a pair of bloody hands slapped outside the car window. It was a police officer who had turned into a zombie, but Ben could not see anything, and he thought it was a human being. He decided to open the car door to call for help, but the other party did not respond but issued a frightening hissing sound. The unusual behavior made Ben aware of the danger. He was so scared that he exited the car through the side door. The thing in front of him is what kind of monster? The invisible fear makes him desperately backward. Luckily, the zombie was temporarily tangled in the rope, giving Ben a chance to escape. He groped his way forward slowly, but suddenly, someone pulled his pants again. It turned out to be another injured police officer. He told Ben to run away. Hearing these words, Ben became even more frightened and quickened his escape pace. I don't know how long he walked, but Ben inadvertently came to a house. But when he knocked on the door, no one answered. Just as he passed a corner, a zombie suddenly appeared before him. Ben was instantly pounced on by the zombies, but it was good to have a shelf to block the attack. But the zombie ripped off his gauze. The light instantly stung Ben's eyes. He struggled to push the zombie away and then used the shelf in his hands to set up a defensive position. When the zombie launched its next attack, her neck just happened to be stuck on the shelf. At this moment, Ben could vaguely see a blurred figure, so he stood up, pushed the zombie away, and decisively used the rack to kill her. He didn't think people were turning into cannibalistic monsters. Ben finally realized the seriousness of the situation. He hurriedly followed the wall and felt his way into the house, but as soon as he closed the door behind him, his eyes started to hurt again. He had to find a piece of cloth and cover his eyes again. After resting for a while, Ben began to feel around the house. The owner had reinforced the windows, apparently, to keep out the zombies. But in the bathtub upstairs, he found the owner's body. You can imagine how desperate the owner was at that time. Ben knew that if he wanted to survive, he had to keep the house, so he began to familiarize himself with every corner of the house. But when he was on the second floor, the keen Ben heard a faint sound of footsteps. He followed the sound downstairs and found that the back door was open, so he rushed back into the room and blocked the door with a cabinet. He thought he was safe, but he didn't know that a zombie had arrived at the house. Just as Ben continued to familiarize himself with the house, the shelf in his hand suddenly came across a pair of 48 size feet. Before Ben had time to react, the zombie hissed and pounced on him. The panicked Ben was scared and ran around. Good thing he figured out the stairs location, so he decided to run to the second floor, and the zombies were in hot pursuit. Ben was soon forced to the corner. He was about to be bitten to death by the zombies when a policewoman suddenly appeared in the stairwell. The zombie just turned around and was shot in the head. When Ben heard the gunshot, he immediately raised his hands for help. Learned that the other party is a female police officer. They asked her to help unlock the handcuffs to make sure Ben was not infected. The policewoman came forward decisively, but instead of uncuffing him, she cuffed his hands again. The dumbfounded Ben was dumbfounded on the spot, and it was the end of the world, but also law enforcement. He pleaded with the policewoman to help uncuff him but was decisively refused. After all, the policewoman didn't know what crime Ben had committed. The policewoman then disposed of the body. Then she checked all the corners of the room. She went to the basement and found it safer than up there, so she brought Ben down with her. They talked and learned that the cop's name was Mara. Despite being 12 months pregnant, she still insisted on going to work at the police station. She didn't expect to see a girl about to mutate halfway down the road. Since she didn't know what was happening, Mara tried to help her, but she did not expect that the girl took advantage of her inattention. Not only grabbed the gun in Mara's police car, but also drove away her police car. Without transportation, Mara had to choose to walk. She walked and came here. a pregnant woman and a blind person. It is almost impossible to survive in the post-apocalyptic world, but staying here is not a long-term solution after all. After uncuffing Ben, Mara planned to take him to the ambulance and drive it to look for help, but they just came outside and met the zombie. Mara shot 3 times to kill it. With only 2 bullets left and with Ben as a dragger, they had to return to the basement again. To improve their chances of survival, Mara planned to drive the ambulance alone. When she left, she gave Ben an axe and a rope so that he could escape with the string when the zombies broke in. Ben thought Mara would abandon him, but Mara said she would return to get him. She finished and walked out the door. After Mara left, Ben followed the rope to the first floor. Make sure the door is locked. He sat comfortably on the sofa. And by the way, he also gave his eyes a little maintenance, but he was so sleepy that he fell asleep without realizing it. Ben did not know how long he slept. Suddenly awakened by a sound, he thought it was Mara who had returned, but he didn't know that a zombie had climbed in through the window. Ben felt bad, but he was familiar with every corner of the house in advance. He took the zombie around, then picked up the axe and ran outside before the zombie caught up with him. However, the zombies soon came after him. Ben kept waving the axe in his hand and eventually cut down the zombie's stomach by mistake. He tried to kill the zombie directly but ended up cutting into wood. Too late to get back the axe. Ben rushed to escape, but because he was too far from the house, he didn't know he had gone in the wrong direction. In this way, Ben walked into a wooded area and came to a wooden house outside. He sat in the doorway and took care of his eyes again. He opened his eyes again and found that his vision was much better than the last time. But he wasn't happy for long when he heard another unusual movement. Ben grabbed a shovel and took precautions. Soon a zombie appeared on his flank. Ben dodged the zombie when it lunged, but Ben hit back in the wrong direction until the zombie grabbed his foot. Ben found the right place to kill him. On the other side, Mara finally found the ambulance, but she was just about to go there when the corpse lying on the ground suddenly mutated and attacked her. The gun in her hand was also shot off. Mara got up and ran to pick up the dropped gun, but she opened fire but missed the vitals of the zombie. Mara shot the last bullet and failed to knock the zombie down. Seeing the zombie pounce again, Mara pushes him down and finally solves the zombie by using the monolith next to her. However, what she didn't expect was that the ambulance had been tampered with by the director. Mara had to return without any success, but she went into the house but found that Ben had disappeared. Only when she saw the broken window did she realize that the zombies had broken in. After taking the owner's gun, Mara rushes to look for Ben. Meanwhile, in the woods, Ben accidentally came to a camp. He just said hello, and the man inside rushed out and shot him. Ben soon woke up, but the shot did not hit his vital organs. It turns out that the man mistook Ben for a zombie, so he pulled the trigger on him. But as he said that, the man began to cough incessantly and handed the gun to Ben. While Ben was wondering, the man said he had been infected with the virus. He asked Ben to kill him before he mutated. Ben couldn't bear it, but the man's mutation was fast, and he fell into a coma in no time. This is a precursor to becoming a zombie. What's worse is that zombies are approaching outside the camp. Ben broke the car window and just fired a shot. The man inside turned into a zombie. He almost caught Ben, but he retreated to the back of the room in time. At that moment, Mara also found the cabin and found the eye drops Ben used. She followed the sound of gunfire to the camp and shot and killed the 2 zombies outside. The gunshots also drew the zombies out of the RV. Although she saved Ben, she was in a crisis. At the critical moment, Ben came out of the caravan in time and fired a blind shot that hit the zombie. They left the camp with each other and arrived at an abandoned factory building before dawn. After entering the factory, Mara found that the electrical system was still working. Then they found a room to stay in temporarily. At that moment, Mara's abdomen suddenly started to have severe pain. The baby is coming. Ben did not know what to do but quietly stood by. But then, a sudden hissing sound sent them into a panic. The zombies had broken in. They had to keep running for their lives. On their way to find the exit, the zombies, unfortunately, found them. Since there were so many intersections in the factory, they didn't know which way to go for a while. A zombie had already caught up with them but was killed by Ben with a hammer. They continued to look for the exit, but suddenly, Ben was dragged away by a zombie. He told Mara to run away. Mara also had to leave Ben behind, but not long she could not run, but she just crouched down to rest, and saw the zombie in front of. The pregnant Mara could only cry, but Ben came in time to kill the zombie, but he had just been bitten by a zombie. To get Mara out of here safely, Ben has to find the exit before the mutation. They met many zombies along the way, but luckily they weren't too fast. They finally found the exit. After sending Mara out, Ben decided to close the door and had a final battle with the zombies that came after them. After finishing all the zombies with his gun, Ben left a bullet for himself too. Mara, who had escaped, collapsed on the side of the road because of the severe pain in her abdomen. Finally, she was saved by the survivors who passed by. Remember to subscribe to my channel, and we will see you next time.